Hey guys, Smokey here. So the next fight in the Manaforge Omega raid is Lumathar. This isn't actually the third boss, this is the second boss, but obviously everyone has been playing it the other way around just because Lumathar on Mythic is a bit of a skill jump for most teams. So, like all the other videos that we've been doing recently, when we break down the damage, we're going to spend a little time talking about the Devastation of Ogre specifically. I'm playing the Flame Shaper hero talents here, and we're just going to see where we can sort of optimize and maximize our damage, and where we need to prioritize, and where we can stand, etc. To potentially cleave more targets, for example. Now, Lumathar is pretty much a single target fight. However, there are tangles that periodically spawn throughout the fight. The idea of this is you kill the tangles, it makes room for you to now run out and not get stunned and killed. And so that's pretty much the whole gimmick of the first half of the fight. There is a massive damage amp in phase 2, or when you get Lumathar down to about half health. And I believe that, later on in let's say reclears and later on in the season, when everyone has a lot more gear, we're probably going to move Bloodlust out to P2. You're definitely going to be able to get a lot higher log if you save all of your Bloodlust and Damage Window, and if you can put your potions at the right time into that 50% mark. But right now, I think a lot of guilds, whilst they're progressing, etc., are just Bloodlusting on pull. So yeah, that's one major improvement I think everyone's going to be able to do on their logs, not just us. But right now, let's just play it through like it is Bloodlust on pull. So. Like I said, this is a single target fight. The video you're about to see was an 85% pass. I think it was a little bit higher at the time, but that's fine. 85% pass on Devastation of Ogre. Unfortunately, I feel like over the last few weeks, our single target has not really stood out. This is a relatively good log, and I'm sitting down in like 6th or 7th place. I know Scale Commander has had a little bit of a buff in the last week or so, and I'm yet to really try it out and see if it's worth doing, especially on something like Fractillus, where it is a complete single target spec. I have seen people use Scale Commander and produce some pretty decent logs, so maybe we'll see a change in the next couple of weeks, not entirely sure. But for now, I'm staying with the Flame Shaper. I'm progressing. I want it to be consistent, and so I can just focus on that. So this is an 85% pass log, and as you can see, this is typically built around the engulfs. This is a very, very common Flame Shaper damage breakdown at the moment, especially on the single target fights. Everything's based around big engulfs, and obviously Disintegrate is our main spender. We chuck in our Empower spells of Eternity Surge and Fire Breath when we can, and obviously proccing as many Essence Bombs as possible. Okay, you'll see two big spikes in this fight. One is obviously at the beginning where we're using Bloodlust, and one is towards the end when I also have another potion ready. I think that lines up with my next potion and Dragon Range. I think I pop it all up here, and that is just before we get the kill. So we start the fight off, and I'm just going to do a typical rotation here. My Eternity Surge into Dragon Rage. I cast 2 Living Flames. It's going to proc 2 Essence Bombs. Fire Breath, Shattering Star, Double Engulf. Now I'm just spending my Disintegrates and proccing my Essence Bombs. Just doing all of that on repeat. Now you'll notice here that the tank has popped the first Tangle, and I'm going to recommend that you spend your Disintegrates on the Tangles, but you don't spend your Empowers on the Tangles, okay? These Tangles last a few seconds, 5 to 10, depending on obviously how much or how fast the rest of your team are really bringing them down. And you don't want to spend an entire Fire Breath on something that's not going to last very long. If you really are the person that's relied on to bring these Tangles down, then you could say Fire Breath and Engulfs for them. That was actually a strategy that we thought about doing when we were first progressing it. But again, I don't think it's necessary if everyone's doing what they should be. One thing you're going to have to do as a ranged player is stand underneath the boss. Every now and then, if you're using a weak Orange, you're probably going to get encouraged to stand underneath the boss. And this is one area which I think people might kind of trick themselves into thinking they can increase their damage. Hey, I'm going to stand under the boss to bait all of these floor puddles. And at the moment, I now have 3 targets in my line of sight. If I had a Fire Breath here, or if I wanted to, I could hold a Fire Breath here, and I could line up both of these Tangles and Lumathar to catch Fire Breath on all 3. I don't think it's worth it. I think it's over-engineering. I think it's going to be too complicated in your head to say, okay, I need the Fire Breath. Now I need to stand under here and also target all of these Tangles. You'll also notice Lumathar is actually quite a big bug right in the center and at the top of your screen. So visually, this isn't the visually this isn't the most appealing fight to see the targets, etc., and see what you're doing. So I wouldn't bother wasting it. Yeah, it's cool if you could face that direction and cast your fire breath, but again, I'm not gonna recommend you do that, especially if you're trying to progress the boss. So cast all of your Empower spells on Lumathar and make sure you're casting your Disintegrates and the odd Living Flame on the Tangles, because you need to bring those things down as soon as possible. I'm going to recommend that once you're at this point here and you've dropped the puddles, make sure you try and have a hover ready. Hover yourself up and guide yourself through. I'm saying do it, and I don't do it here. Hover yourself up. There you go. I finally did it. And guide yourself through those webs. You'll see that the room that they have to kind of like get through gets smaller and smaller. You've also got the big Lumathar in the way, and it can sometimes get kind of hard to wiggle yourself out of there. So if you have hover, you can maneuver yourself around it, and you can still have uptime on the boss as you're doing this. All right. You'll see that throughout the fight, we have this over-infusion burst. It's a big pool on the floor, and towards the end, what's going to happen is it's going to explode. You've got time to stand in here and do a couple more casts. It's not doing any damage to you right now. It's quite a lot of, sorry, I said it wasn't doing any damage to you. It might actually be doing damage to you, but not enough to worry you. Everyone's standing outside the circle here. There's not actually much going on. So if you are taking damage, just make sure you're standing in there, getting a bit more DPS off, maybe a couple of Disintegrates, etc. You've got extra 5 seconds, which most people will just be running away and just standing there AFK. So make sure you capitalize on that, as long as it's not dangerous. So you'll see, I'm casting my Eternity Surge, I'm casting my Fire Breath, and then I'm standing underneath the boss and casting some Disintegrates on the Tangles. It can be a little bit overwhelming trying to focus on your single target rotation as well as standing in the right place and looking at the Tangles, etc. But if you kind of just follow that logic in your head of what you're going to be casting on the Tangles only Disintegrates, it should be a lot easier to do. Now, I actually got the Break Tether on this one here, and I'm going to be honest with you, it happened too many times for my liking. I would have a hover ready. I would feel that I should go and quickly break the tether by hovering outside of the circle. The catch here, though, is if you break your tether on a spot that already has a web, you will get stunned for 10 seconds. And that is a huge impact to you in the fight. So you'll notice here that I'm actually running myself out of the circle, which is, again, some downtime. But it's because like I said, too many times did I pop that tether on someone that had already been popped, and it would then stun me. I was just looking at someone at the bottom there to see if they did it, and they didn't. They got away from it. So just bear that in mind. If you've got to break the tether, make sure you do not pop it on a place that already has a web. That is 10 seconds you do not want to be standing still for. You take a lot of damage. I had some good healers. I never actually died to it, but I probably should have done, to be completely honest with you. All right. Now, I have another Dragon Rage lined up, and like I said, you're playing around your Dragon Rage, your 2-minute CDs, double engulf, max rank Fire Breath. It would have been great if I had my Shattering Star there, but I'm not going to wait for it. The only other thing to bring up here is you'll notice around the edge of the room, there's another mechanic which we haven't spoke about yet, and that is these absorptions. When we started progging this boss, we thought that the Devastation Evoker would be one of the main DPS for killing the Tangles, and so I wasn't assigned to these pylons, I'm going to call them. I think we probably could have done, to be honest with you. I was very fortunate that I didn't have to do any of these. The way we set it up is you had basically eight pair sets, which is essentially 16 people. So the majority of the room had these pylons. I was very fortunate to have it. So your fight is probably going to look a little bit different if you have to do these pylons as well. All right. But my bit of advice, if you were to do the pylons, because of our limited range, would be to stand as close to the center as possible, potentially on this big pink jewel that you see on the floor. There's one for every single pylon. That way you're going to still be able to target Lumathar and hopefully still be able to target the Tangles as well. All right. But like I said, this is a single target rotation. The Tangles come out. I'm casting my Fire Breath on Lumathar. I might cast a Living Flame, and then I'm suddenly going to position myself for the soaks. I'm not going to call them soaks, sorry. I'm going to position myself for the puddles on the floor, and I'm also going to be trying to get some Disintegrates off on the Tangles. It's very, very important you bait these puddles underneath the boss. It's high priority. We had way too many wipes to incorrectly place puddles. So again, right, everyone's trying to leave here. I'm gone. You know what? I'm going to get another engulf in with a max rank fire breath. The problem is, I probably should have done a double engulf, and so I got a bit greedy here. I should have waited and done a double engulf. I had so many essence bombs to go here, and yeah, it is what it is. We save it for the next one.
Probably wasted one engulf in there.
I literally say to myself, oh, I've wasted an engulf. So what next thing, that's the whole fight, by the way. Everything in P1 we've already gone over. It's the tangles, it's the baiting of the puddles. Make sure you're focusing on Lumathar, but, you know, doing some extra damage on the tangles. And then everything comes up to what you're going to be doing in P2. Okay? Now, whether you have a Dragon Rage lined up for when you hit P2 is going to be completely random. This is not, you know, a timed phasing. It is depending on how quickly you kill the boss. So every guild is going to be completely different. We've obviously got someone dead here as well, so that's going to affect the timing. But ideally, you know, you'd have another Dragon Rage up for as soon as you enter this phase, because that would be good. So we get this phase happening. It's just under the 50%. That's when it goes. Now during this entire phase, Lumathar does take additional damage. I accidentally hovered myself underneath Lumathar. Do not do that. I haven't actually done that, by the way. I haven't actually done that before. I don't know why I did it there, but it is what it is. Now, I actually made a little bit of a mistake here because I just cast my Fire Breath max rank. I popped an engulf, and now I've got 18 seconds before I've got my second engulf ready. But my Dragon Rage comes in 6 seconds. So this would have actually been perfect, having a double engulf there, and I've wasted it, to be honest with you. So I've now got the choice: do I wait 11 seconds for my next engulf, or do I just pop Dragon Rage and kind of get on with it? So I'm actually buying myself some time here. I thought, you know what, let's just wait for the Dragon Rage. Let's wait for the double engulf. I go for it there. I've managed to get my Fire Breath and tip the scales. Sharon start, double engulf. I make myself believe it was the right choice, but the right choice would have been to hold the engulf originally, because my Dragon Rage would have come up sooner. Fire Breath rank 1. When I'm not got my engulfs ready, this is all just regular stuff that you need to know for being a Flame Shaper. There's nothing crazy going on here. Now you're going to take it in turns to make these soaks, and the boss, the tanks are basically just going to kite the boss around the room so he doesn't fill up the floor with too much sludge from his abdomen, call it. This takes a little bit of practice, but kind of fine. You are going to get knocked back quite a few times. Luckily, we have Obsidian Scales. Luckily, we have Renewing Blaze. So I would just encourage you to just take it in turns. Defensive on one pushback, Renewing Blaze on another pushback, another defensive on another pushback. Kind of just alternate these things just to help your healers out and give them a better time. I've done this boss fight 3 times now, and 2 times I've died during that pushback phase. No fault of anyone. It's just I was the unlucky one that went, because I didn't have my Obsidian Scales ready to go at that moment in time. Zephyr is obviously great here as well, so make sure you've got that. That will help you and 4 others around you, so make sure you've got it. Now, the fight lasted long enough for us where we had a second potion ready. Ideally, I'd love to line this up with Dragon Rage, right? But we've actually got, what, 30% on the boss right now? So I had a decision to make. Do I just waste the potion? Do I wait for the Dragon Rage? Wasn't entirely sure. I decided to wait for it. I was confident that we would still see my next Dragon Rage. We've also got 4 people dead right now, and so yeah, I took a bit of a gamble here, and it kind of paid off. Now, if those 4 people were alive, healer and 3 DPS, we probably would have killed it quicker, and therefore I would have had my Dragon Rage. But if you remember, in the middle of the fight, I held my Dragon Rage for about 5 seconds. Actually, sorry, nearly 10 seconds, because I was waiting for the engulf, right? So me not having double engulfs ready for my Dragon Rage means I'm holding my Dragon Rage. And if I'm holding my Dragon Rage, it means that I'm probably not going to get another Dragon Rage in towards the end of the fight. So you can see how it has this domino effect and why it's so important to have Dragon Rage on cooldown. And then not only that, but also double engulf when you've also got your Dragon Rage done as well. So as I'm moving, if I've got something that's going to interrupt my cast, I'll cast an Azure Strike. My Dragon Rage came up, used my potion, and I managed to get the last 5 to 10 seconds of the boss fight with absolutely everything I've got in my arsenal. Just disintegrate, 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 disintegrate. Now, unfortunately, boss died there, and I've still got like 6 seconds left of my Dragon Rage, maybe 10, 20, with the extra Empower spells, but you know what? It is what it is. It was still an 85% pass with all those mistakes in there. So yeah, I was kind of happy with it. So listen, that's the fight. I think the main thing as the evoker to kind of focus on, or actually no, to not worry about is the tangles. I think they're a little bit misleading. It's normally if there's ads there, we can make some more damage out of it. I don't think it's worth it on this fight unless you kind of get a little bit lucky with positioning, etc. Make sure you're standing under the boss. Don't hover yourself into webs. That is a big 10 seconds you'll be stunned for. Hopefully you don't learn that or learn that lesson the hard way. And yeah, just blast single target as much as you possibly can. Like I said, I expect the fight to change later on with Bloodlust in the second phase. But for now, good luck.